So guys, the ultimate bao bun. Well, light, fluffy, you know, that kind of thing where you take a bite and it just disappears like a beautiful, delicious cloud. These are all the things that you should be going for when you're making your bao buns at home. And I have a very special little masterclass for you guys on how to make bao buns and then how to make a whole bunch of delicious things with that technique. Chinese barbecue pork steamed buns, slow braised pork belly buns. We've got some really cute little hot dog bao buns, which I really like. And then one of my most popular recipes of all time, the fried chicken bao bun. Here you go guys, enjoy, happy bao bunning. Just plain regular all-purpose flour that goes into a bowl, and then we want some skim milk powder. So this is one little secret ingredient that I've found really does help with flavor and a bit of the texture as well for the bun. Okay, now the raising agents. So I've got some dry yeast here. Now there are two different types. There's active dry yeast and there's instant dry yeast. So the active dry yeast needs to be bloomed in some warm water before you use it. This is an instant one, which means I can just put it straight into my dry flour mix and I don't need to do that extra step. Okay, now I need some baking powder as well. That's also going to help with the light and the fluffy part. And then some sugar as well. Now just mix these dry ingredients together first, make sure they're all well incorporated. And then I want to make a well in the center. And now the wet ingredients. So I've got some warm water. The warm water is important because that's going to help to activate the yeast that's in our dry mix. So you don't want it boiling because really hot boiling water will kill the yeast. You just want it warm. You should be able to still put your finger in it, but feel that it is hotter than room temperature. And then a little bit of oil as well. The oil is another little secret that is going to keep our buns really kind of moist rather than drying out. So I'm just going to mix those. And then that goes into our dry mix, into that well we've made. And now start mixing and just kind of start to incorporate the flour from the edges of the well into the center. It'll look quite wet to start with. So once I can start to see this come together into one cohesive blob, I'm going to get my hands in there. So I'll just get some flour first of all and just make some floured space here on my bench top. And then get a little bit of flour on my hands as well. And I just want to empty that dough out. Now a little bit more flour on top. And now we want to knead this until it's really nice and smooth. And this is where you need to use a little bit of intuition. I can feel this sticking a little bit to my hands as I'm kneading it. So I'm going to grab a little bit more flour, sprinkle that on top, keep kneading. Okay, and so this is where you want to just relax into the kneading time. And you want to do this for about 5 minutes. Now, once you can see that your dough has become really nice and smooth, and this looks really great, I'm just going to roll it up into a nice ball. And one other way you can tell that this dough is ready is if I just push down on it a little with my finger, it's bouncing back. You can see that little bounce back. So it means we've worked the gluten enough in the flour, and we'll just pop that into a bowl. And you want to put a tea towel on top and leave that to sit down and relax a little for about 90 minutes. Okay, let's have a look at what we've got. And by this stage, your dough should have doubled in size. This looks pretty good to me. If not, just put it back under the tea towel, let it rest a little longer. Okay, so what we want to do is just lightly flour our surface here, tip that dough out. Okay, now we want to knead this again for another 5 minutes, and this is basically to knock all the air bubbles or the big air bubbles out of the dough because we want a really nice fine crumb or texture on our bun. We want it to be light, but we don't want big air pockets. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. I'm just gonna now flatten it down, shape it into a rough circle, and I just wanna get some flour down here on either side because I'm gonna roll it out. I don't want it to stick. Now just take yourself a rolling pin, or in my case, a cup or a bottle, whatever you've got, and just roll this out into a large circle. You want it to be about 1 centimeter thick. Now, one of my biggest tips here for rolling out any kind of dough is keep it moving while you're rolling. So that makes sure that it won't stick to the bottom. Now, the biggest challenge with bao buns is twofold, in my opinion. One is you want to get a really nice smooth top on the outside of the bun, and the other is that you need to create a fold that will come unstuck when you need it to, as in you need to be able to open it up and put your filling in. So I like to just get a little bit of oil, just some vegetable oil, any neutral tasting oil, and rub all over the top of this dough. This is going to be the inside fold, and this oil will stop it from sticking together. Now you want to take about a 10 centimeter pastry cutter and just cut little rounds out of that dough. Now, as you're moving that dough around, just be careful not to disturb the top of the dough too much. And now, of course, we have the pieces left over. You can just pile them all up, roll that out, and cut even more pieces out. Now that I've got my rounds, I want just some squares of baking paper. Put that down, and then really gently pull up one side of your round, fold it over, pat down a little bit, smooth the top, transfer that over onto your baking paper, and then just use a rolling pin and gently push down and roll over the top. Now that helps to give us that smooth texture on the top of our bun. Now just bunch all of these up together on the bench top, and they just need one more round of resting. Just cover them up and come back in 30 minutes. Now let's see what magic has happened while we've been away, and look at that, they've puffed up a little, still nice and smooth on the top. Now we have to steam them. So without disturbing the top of that bun too much, I'm gonna get them into my steamer. Now these guys will puff up quite a bit, so don't overcrowd them in there. You can find these bamboo steamers in a lot of bigger sort of Asian grocery stores. They're fairly easy to find, or you can get them online as well. Now you wanna pop this onto a pot of boiling water. The lid goes on. And now they just need 12 minutes to get nice and steamy and puffy and light. So let's have a look at what we've got. So satisfying. Look at that puffy goodness. Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna get one of these guys out. Now I have asbestos hands, so don't try this at home. You use some tongs or something because they are hot. And then let's have a look at how fluffy they are. So this is the test. To open them up, and you can see just how easily we can open that in half, ready for some filling. And then let's have a look at how light and fluffy they are. I can never resist eating the first one straight out of the steamer. Red cabbage, some sliced spring onion, pop of red colour. The spicy will come later. And now the lime. I'm going to use the zest and the juice here. And now I want a good hit of garlic here as well. A dash of sugar for some sweetness. And then just give that a mix. I've had my sausages sizzling away here. You could go any way you want here. I'm using a little spicy chipolata kind of sausage, but you could do a regular hot dog. Now when these are cool enough to handle, just slice them open. Okay, let's add in our cabbage relish here. And now a sausage. I like to do a bit of a trio here, so I'm going for some Japanese tonkatsu sauce. This has like a barbecue sauce kind of flavor. And then some Kewpie mayonnaise. It's for like some extra tang. And then because you know me and I like things spicy, I'm going for a spicy chili sauce. I'm using my coconut sriracha here, but any kind of spicy hot sauce you like is great. We've got that really tangy relish, so it kind of provides like a real zippy pop of flavor. It's like a big explosion of flavor. Oh, that is so good. I'm going to use my Marion's Kitchen coconut sriracha. You can use whatever kind of hot sauce you like. I love this one, obviously. And then I'm going to add some vodka. So vodka is going to do two things. One, it's got volatile molecules. So when it hits the hot oil, it's going to sort of make things puff up and bubble and crisp up, which is really good. But also alcohol is a really good flavor carrier. So it's going to help with the flavor being carried all through our chicken as a marinade. So I'm going to pour that in. And if you want to keep this kid friendly and you don't want to use any alcohol, just add a little bit of chicken stock or some water. Some sweet paprika. This is going to give us a really great color as well. Some chili powder and some garlic powder. This is another one of my little secret ingredients that's going to boost the umami and the sort of savory flavor of the chicken. And then a really decent pinch of salt. Now just give that a mix. Add in your chicken and just mix all of those pieces through. I want to leave this chicken to rest. Overnight would be great, but if you're in a hurry, 10-20 minutes would be good too. Okay, now time to make that coating on the chicken happen. So what we want to do is pour the whole lot of this chicken plus all of that liquid into our bowl of flour. And now you want to mix everything up, and the flour is going to bind with all of that liquid and create all of the little crispy, craggly bits and pieces on the outside of the chicken. Just grab hold of a piece and really press down, get lots of that sticky, floury stuff stuck to the chicken. And then in our chicken goes. And of course, as with any deep frying, don't overcrowd the pan. Overcrowding will drop the temperature of the oil too much, and that's when you get things all oily and soggy. Not what we want. And my other big tip for deep frying at home, particularly when you're doing large pieces of things, is to keep them moving and keep them flipping over. So it's not like in a restaurant where you have a really big vat of oil and you've got like a basket keeping it off the bottom of the pan. So you have to keep it moving so that it cooks evenly without getting too many brown spots. Now look at this gorgeous color. Fried chicken doesn't get any better than this. Now take these out and drain them on some paper towel. While that chicken's still hot, sprinkle over some salt. Always be seasoning when you get things straight out of the oil while they're hot, because the salt will stick. Any kind of fried chicken sandwich to me needs a really good sort of drizzly sauce to go with it. So I'm going to start with a little bit of mayonnaise, and I'm going to add some extra chili because that's just me, but this is some extra coconut sriracha. Just mix that through. So good, spicy, tangy, yum. And now for the chicken. So because of the size of my bao buns, I'm going to slice the chicken in half. Also just because I love to hear that crispy crunch. Look at that, perfection. Now you want to open up your bun, drizzle on the base some of that spicy mayo and a couple of pieces of chicken. And then because you can never have too much spicy sauce, in my opinion, I'm going to put some more sauce on top. And then a little bit of that pickled onion. And finally, some spring onion. Now that, my friends, is one epic sandwich. Crunchy chicken, spicy mayo, and then pickled onion. Perfect. Just perfect. Really is very good. We should film this again so I can eat more. I just need a little bit of oil in my pan here, and some garlic, and some onion. Now to help those onions break down and become nice and sweet, I'm going to add a little bit of salt that'll help to draw out some of the moisture. Now those onions have had a couple of minutes, they're beautifully soft. Now I'm going to add in some Chinese barbecue pork and some char siu sauce. So char siu sauce is Chinese barbecue sauce. You can find it in the Asian aisle of most supermarkets. And now some seasoning, some soy sauce and some sugar. Okay, now I'm gonna add some water. And I want to let this pork simmer in that beautiful sweet sauce for about 3 or 4 minutes, just to let those flavors intensify. Oh, so this pork is smelling so amazing. I'm always so tempted to start digging in right now before I make the buns, but I will refrain from doing that and add in a little bit of corn flour mixed with some water. What we want to do here is create almost like a pork jelly that will sit inside of our buns. Now you can see just how thick that's become almost instantly. Now I have to get this out to cool before I make my buns. So just out onto a tray. And then I'm gonna pop this in the freezer, and by the time my dough is ready to roll out, this should be nice and cool. Now I wanna get a little bit of flour out onto my surface here. Just take my dough and then roll it out. We're gonna do a couple of rolls and folds here. Fold that dough over and roll again. Fold it over. One more roll out here. Now roll that dough up to form a cylinder. Now I want to cut this into 16 even pieces. Just place those pieces out, and you can see we've got a lovely spiral shape there with our dough. That's going to give us a little bit more air and some fluff. Now I'm going to cover these up while I roll them out so they don't dry out. My pork is nice and cool now. Take one of your dough pieces, sprinkle with a little bit of flour, and in the first instance, roll out into a circle. And then just like you would with a dumpling wrapper, I want you to take your rolling pin and just thin out the edges of that circle, leaving the center with a little bit more mass than the outside. This way, we're going to get a more even spread of our dough around that filling. And now here comes the fun part, folding and wrapping our little buns. So follow my lead, take a piece of your wrapper. Now put a generous helping of pork in the middle there. I don't like to be too stingy with my sticky pork. Take your right hand and use your left index finger to push a little pleat into your right hand. And then push again into your right hand. And you're basically using both hands to kind of wrap and pleat around the top of the filling. And then you'll get to the point where everything wants to close up. The thumb should still be in the middle there, and start twisting and then squeeze. And there you go, beautiful little steamed bun shape. Now just tuck in those beautiful little buns with a slightly damp tea towels to keep the air out. And then let these guys rest for half an hour. Okay, so now we are ready to steam our little guys. Let's get them out into a bamboo steamer, just with some baking paper on the bottom so we don't get any sticking to the bottom. Now I've got some boiling water here, and these just need about 12 minutes until they're beautifully fluffy. So let's have a look at our buns. Oh, so good. There you go. Moment of truth though is opening these guys up and having a look. Oh, wow, look at how light and fluffy that bun is, just the way it should be. That combination of that super fluffy bun and then that really savory, sweet, salty pork. One of life's true pleasures. Now I just need some soy sauce, and you want some dark sweet soy sauce as well. So this is going to give us a really beautiful deep dark color, which is the kind of characteristic of red braising. It's called red braising, but It's kind of a dark mahogany, if you like. And then I want some brown sugar and a few spices here. So I've got some cinnamon sticks, some fennel seeds, and some star anise as well. And now for some fresh aromatics, I want some spring onion and some ginger. Now just give that a bit of a mix and get that heating up so that sugar starts to dissolve in that sauce. I've got some bubbles happening here, and I'm gonna pop my pork in. Let's see how we go with space. Now add in some water, and I want enough so that my pork belly is gonna be covered when I put a bit of a weight on it. Let's have a look. Just turn these pieces over. Now I want to pop some baking paper on top of this first of all. Now to press that pork down, make sure it's submerged in that liquid while it's cooking. I'm just going to put a kind of bunch of foil on top, and when I put the lid on, that foil and the pressure of the lid is going to keep that pork under the braising liquid. Now traditionally, Chinese red braising happens on the stovetop, but I find with low and slow, long stovetop cooking, you're kind of, coming back all the time, gets too hot, it's not hot enough, all that kind of stuff. I just like to pop it in the oven. It's just easier. All right, so you want to give this about 2 hours for that pork to get really soft and tender. Okay, so this is smelling incredible. All those beautiful spices and aromatics. Yum, just filling my kitchen with so much joy. Now I did turn the pork over a couple of times just to make sure we get a really beautiful even color. And let's see how we've gone. Oh, look at that. See, that's the color that I'm talking about with traditional Chinese red braising. It's a deep, dark mahogany. Let's get these guys out onto a tray. Now they're not quite done yet. I'm gonna strain off this braising liquid and then pour that flavor-packed liquid straight back over the top of the pork. And now I want to let this sit in the fridge overnight. 1, because it's going to soak up even more flavor, and 2, because I want that pork belly to firm up a little bit so I can slice it before grilling. Now just put some baking paper on top of there, and then I'm going to weight this down because that way I'm going to get a really nice, firm, pressed piece of pork. All right, now into the fridge. Okay, so here we are. Pork has had its time in the fridge. Let's do the big reveal. Still such a beautiful color. Now what we want to do here is clean up some of the fat that's solidified at the top here. Now take out that pork belly, save that for a bit later. Now this liquid is like pure gold, flavor gold that is. I'm going to strain it off. I only need a cupful to finish off my buns here. And I want to let that sauce simmer away until it's really glossy and thickened a little bit. And then let's get going on our pork. So take one of your pieces. Now this pork is actually really super soft and tender, so it's great that it's been refrigerated because it's going to make it easier to slice. Otherwise it would just melt away. So I want a fairly generous piece of pork here. Now this is a great idea for when you've got people over because you can do all of this in advance. You can get your pork sliced up, your sauce done, bao buns made, and then at the last minute all you need to do is sear off your pork belly. And this is the fun part. So once the pork's had a couple of minutes on that first side, let's turn the pieces over, and you need to be gentle here because, as I said, that pork is uber tender, very soft. Take some of that reduced sauce and drizzle that over the top. Now give these guys another couple of minutes here. I really want the sauce and the pork and the heat to work its magic. All right, so that pork, check it out. I mean, it's like its own little work of art in there. Oh. All right, let's get our bun together. Now open up your bun here, add some of the spicy sauce, and now just some finely shredded cabbage. We want a little bit of crunch and freshness here. And then of course you want a piece of pork. Now a smattering of spring onion and some crushed roasted peanuts. And there you go. You can pile those up, or you can serve the pork and the bao buns and everything so everyone can help themselves. Don't forget to add a little bit of extra spicy sauce here at the end, just because, you know, everyone needs some extra spicy. Let me pick out the perfect specimen. That is incredible. That super soft pork is sticky and sweet and fragrant, and that spicy cut through at the end is so perfect. You want to be making this for the people you love. Nothing says I love you like a bao bun.